Last Friday, the 25th at 4 p.m. Spanish time, news broke that managed to instill significant fear in the market, causing a notable drop. This news came from the Wall Street Journal, reporting that federal authorities were investigating the stablecoin Tether for alleged anti-money laundering violations. In this video, we'll explain how this excessive fear was an opportunity for smart money to absorb bearish positions fueled by market fear. And we'll see how this points to something quite positive for the crypto ecosystem. Since our friends at the Wall Street Journal only let us read the full story by subscribing, which we're not planning to do, let's check out how Cointelegraph covered this news, as well as the wider crypto ecosystem's reaction to this possible Tether investigation. I'll summarize what's been reported. The US government would be investigating Tether for potential money laundering issues and regulatory violations. Reportedly, the Department of Justice and the Treasury are leading this investigation. It didn't take long for Paolo Ardoino, Tether's CEO, to respond, claiming that the Wall Street Journal was making everything up and that Tether isn't under investigation. He added that the news outlet was rehashing old noise and should stop. Now, let's look at how this impacted financial markets and what insights we can gain from analyzing it. First, to set the scene, the news came out on Friday, October 25, around 4 p.m. Spanish time. This news hit all major media outlets right as Bitcoin was testing a key resistance level, aiming to break through and move towards a bull market. However, as luck would have it, just when we were on the brink of a breakout, this news emerged, making it nearly impossible for Bitcoin to break through. This triggered widespread panic, with investors selling frantically within a market working through a flat consolidation phase, an area where the smart money had already established a long position defending this zone. Notice how the price, for over 12 consecutive hours, couldn't break below this defense zone, leaving only aggressive wicks. Let's examine these wicks more closely. These spikes show how the price couldn't close below the defense level. Check out the volume the market printed here. It's an extraordinary case. When we open up the delta, you'll see that retail investors were selling at the worst possible spot, spurred by the news. Interestingly, just as Bitcoin touched this structure, the news came out and retail investors started selling as the price plummeted for the next 5 hours. Many associated the price drop with the news, assuming the market was doomed, only to be absorbed by larger players who understand news doesn't inherently move markets. You can see this in the volume and delta as they masterfully defended the support zone. Now, the price is behaving as expected. If you're wondering whether this phenomenon is unique to Bitcoin, and if this concept is already blowing your mind, just wait. Watch how they've handled this event, this news, this catalyst across other assets. I promise you, it will leave a lasting impression. To start, let's take a look at Ethereum on the 1-hour time frame. Notice this bearish impulse, this channel, this range, and surprise, right at this point, marked here, the Wall Street Journal news hit. It's the perfect spot for a climactic bearish, deceptive move that scares people into selling everything. Now, when I say people, I'm excluding members of the Crypto Insight community, especially those in Crypto Insight Premium. A bearish climactic move doesn't scare them. They understand how and why these moves happen. And now, as you understand this well, notice the audacity. Right before our eyes, in an optimal zone, they start creating this deceptive bearish move. And look closely, they didn't choose just any area. They did it in a spot we highlighted as important in Crypto Insight, where smart money began accumulating long positions. Thanks to volume readings, we identified an area where, if the market wanted to explode in the short term, it wouldn't break down further. Here's this blue rectangle. Let's zoom in a bit, and, just like with Bitcoin, notice the coincidence. During this climactic bearish action spurred by the news, the price held above the defense zone for 5 consecutive hours, only giving us a wick indicating the climactic bearish move, where short sellers were absorbed. This is evident in the volume and the delta, and it fuels a positive narrative for the ecosystem. Now, if you're wondering if this happens with other assets, I'll show you. You're going to be amazed. But first, welcome to Crypto Insight, your ethical and moral channel for cryptocurrency technical analysis. Here, we really know what we're talking about. We conduct advanced technical analysis that has been developed for over 12 years. We upload videos several times a week. If you're enjoying what you're seeing, let me know and leave a comment with your opinion. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click on the bell so you don't miss the next opportunity. let's look at how they pulled the same trick with BNB in the 1 hour time frame. Notice this whole area. You'll see a clear distribution where smart money positioned itself short to bring the market down. It's easy to spot, right? After the usual process of distribution or accumulation, they usually work these accompanying structures. Here, they're already in a short position, preventing the price from breaking this zone. Now, as soon as it does break, I'll explain more in a moment. Look at this. Just like with Bitcoin, which was knocking on the door on Friday, the 25th at 4 p.m. Spanish time, right when the Tether news came out. Notice what BNB was doing at that moment? Again, what a coincidence. BNB was also knocking on the door, testing to see if it would break. And then suddenly, the news hits, injecting fear and creating an aggressive climactic move. The wick, look at where the price closes. I'll break it down for you in detail, but pay attention to the volume and the delta. Here, we clearly see how sellers, driven by irrational fear, were absorbed. Now, ask yourself this. Does anyone genuinely believe that this Wall Street Journal news about authorities supposedly investigating possible money laundering violations and sanctions would instantly cause Tether to collapse, going to zero that same day or week? It's pretty clear that the answer is no. First, we don't even know the validity of this news. That's the starting point. But even if they are investigating, we wouldn't know the outcome yet. They might be clean. And if they're not, consider how long such an investigation would take. Several months, at least. So again, I ask, could this single piece of news released on October 25 at 2:06 p.m. actually crash the market by itself? The answer is so obvious it doesn't need to be said out loud. And here, you can see how, faced with such absurdity, the retail investor panics. They see the price drop and quite literally fall into the trap because large institutions, without a shadow of a doubt, have taken this opportunity to absorb positions. In this section, I need to fix the OBS template framing. I used the wrong one, but now it's corrected. Moving forward, take Solana as an example. On Friday, the 25th, we were right here. The news hit, and it seemed like the end of the world. But notice how, once again, the market couldn't break below its defense zone for 4 or 5 candles, leaving a massive wick and huge volume, which, as we all know, is highly significant. This absorption hasn't stopped, and we see the same with Cardano, which becomes even clearer on the 4-hour time frame. Look at how the news triggered a climactic action just below this defense zone. The wicks, volume, and delta reveal everything. And here, we're already seeing the level start to recover. Now, we'll share what we think might happen next. But first, let's look at Polkadot, which has a similar pattern. Here, we saw the potential for a bearish impulse and its correction, where a follow-up attempt could fall short and fail. Exactly what ended up happening. Notice how the climactic action driven by the news hit the defense zone and barely went further, not to mention the volume and delta, of course. Now, if you're sharp and paying close attention, you likely see where this is heading. But let's update the Bitcoin analysis. We have the key black level here, and now we think they're working on a flat pattern. Given the scale of this structure, a substantial flat pattern makes sense. In our view, Bitcoin is building out a flat pattern here. For those new to this, here's a bit of theory. When price works a certain structure, a trend line, a creek, or any other pattern, it often follows with a flat structure. This flat acts as a micro trend line where smart money essentially stalls and confuses the retail investor before making the next directional move. We think Bitcoin may currently be in this phase, as shown here. Now, the question is, are they ready to break through structures or not? Time will tell. But one thing's certain, after all these absorptions, we have no choice but to remain positive, as we have been for over a month. For us, the positive narrative continues. With Ethereum, we'll wait for an accumulation process to complete where they start building an overhead line. Who knows? They might test the last point of supply before breaking out. We'll see how it unfolds. But as I mentioned, we remain optimistic. As for BNB, it appears to be breaking through the overhead supply line pushed by institutions in short positions. We'll watch for continued development, especially as Bitcoin teases our potential breakout from the flat structure. At this point, we'll have to cross-analyze and see how things play out to get a sense of whether we're heading upward immediately or if more time will be spent before making that move. For me, that's the real discussion here, nothing else. But as you can see, in general, we remain optimistic. Just take a look at Solana. Remember, with Solana, we've been tracking a wedge, and that wedge finally broke, heading towards the Z trend line, a level we didn't want to see lost. Then the news hit, a perfect trap in disguise, and Z continued. Frankly, this was what we had in mind as a likely event. Now, after this bullish black swan, we're considering a breakout that could push us higher. So the big question is, are they going to do it immediately, right now? Or will they look to make some kind of pullback or trap before moving up? That's the key dilemma. As for Cardano, after experiencing the impulse, the channel, the range, and the climactic bearish action, we'd like to see a harmonic pattern, something that would continue this upward movement. When and how it happens, we'll see, but we've been speculating about a creek forming around these price levels, waiting for that eventual breakout. And with Polkadot, we've repositioned the wedge trend lines as we're still submerged in it. We think the breakout hasn't occurred yet. When it does, we believe it will be powerful. Now, whether that happens soon or takes a little longer, time will tell. Either way, we expect a strong breakout that impacts the creek, likely followed by a minimal pullback before a significant upward move. I hope you found this advanced technical analysis interesting, where we put our interpretation of this news on the table. I'm sure on other YouTube channels or in the press, they might paint this as the end of the world, urging people to sell. But here, we understand the meaning of such news, knowing how big players really manipulate the market and use these types of events as catalysts for movements. This insight lets us truly understand the charts, what's happening, and what we can expect as the most likely scenario in the short and medium term. If you found this interesting, let me know in the comments. Also, give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so YouTube alerts you to future uploads. And if you'd like to see more analysis like this, examining news and its impact, just let us know. Good luck with your trading, and until next time.